Good afternoon. My name is Steffen Fuchs. I'm a senior partner in our Dallas office, and I'm one of our global leaders on the topic of digital and innovation. I must say this topic on your agendas is called Inspiring Ideas, but I have to admit I'm inspired by what I've heard so far in this group. I'm actually a little intimidated to talk to this group after all the great ideas you already generated about innovation, but I'll give it a try. In the spirit of TED Talks, this is going to be a little different, a little more provocative maybe even, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. And most importantly, I hope to constructively challenge you to take action, no pun intended. So let me start with a little flashback in history. The wheel, as we all know it, it's been around for 250 years, it's been around for a long time, 250 AD. This looks more like a donut. It reminds me of my Canadian times in Canada. But so has luggage. And so for those of you who can see this particular piece of luggage here probably has been around for quite a bit of time, looks quite worn. The question is, when did we put wheels on luggage? When did we put wheels on luggage? Well, it was in the 1970s, and who did it? The wheel manufacturers? No. Luggage manufacturers? No. Pilots. Pilots put wheels on luggage. Makes a lot of common sense. The point of the story is innovation typically happens by the insiders, people like yourselves. Those people that are closest to the process, those are the ones that have the highest odds of succeeding in innovation. So that's the thought I want to leave you with today. How do we put wheels on luggage? Or in our case, how do we put an imaginary wheel on infrastructure projects, accelerate everything, and hopefully do it faster than the millennium? That's the idea. So as you think about this, as my colleagues had said before, infrastructure sector, $10 trillion, rapidly evolving, 3.6% growth forecasted to 2025, which would make the sector a $14 trillion a year sector. However, we have massive productivity challenges. Gerna talked about this before and what the opportunities could be. If you put those productivity challenges in perspective, if we were to solve those, it could add $1.6 trillion of value add to the world's economy. Again, coming back to my Canadian days, that is the Canadian GDP these days. So solving productivity could be adding $1.6 trillion to the world economy. Furthermore, we all know that a lot of that comes down to labor productivity. So if we were to solve labor productivity, and as Gerna showed, about 50% of that could be the case, we all believe this could lead to shorter and more reliable schedules, and therefore better project outcomes. So in a nutshell, I think a case worthwhile investing in and thinking through what can we do in order to improve our odds of succeeding. Well, the topic was called Accelerating Digital Ideas, so the question is, where does this digital topic come in? A couple of points. One, investments in innovation or in the operating model are a big unlock. We heard a lot about this today already. And so are investments in digital, or as I like to call it, tech enablement. Because it's more than just the digital solution, it's the tech enablement, as we heard through the quick panel earlier today. If we do that, we could get the 20 to 45% cost reductions that Gerna said, or from an operating margin perspective, we believe that could be 15%. That's quite a bit of money. So here are two things I want you to be aware of and take away from this conversation. The first one, after today's talk, I don't think I need to convince you anymore, but the digital opportunity is real. There's plenty of people in this audience that can speak to this, and I've seen a few already here that can happily attest to what's going on. Now, when we look at this, and somebody said this earlier in the panel conversation, it's not about the point solution, it's about constellations. And we think this chart is very interesting because it starts to show what we mean by constellations. Constellations are no longer point cloud solutions. They are a grouping of offerings that solve a particular use case. There's 4 of those that we're particularly excited about. I think Greg Bentley mentioned earlier digital twin technology. That's one of those constellations that we're excited about. 3D printing and modularization, another big one we're excited about. AI and analytics, obviously a big topic, and we think that has a lot of potential. And so does supply chain optimization in newly forming marketplaces. In other words, these constellations are the ones that we think have the most potential for impact in the short term. They're attracting the most investment funding. Speaking of investment funding, as you can see on this page, in 2018, about $18 billion of investment funding has been going into these new solutions. So I think I made the point, the digital opportunity is real, and it's happening right now. But we also talked about this, and this is really what I want to focus on today. We do need new organizational structures and a new talent strategy to adapt to this. What do we mean by that? I think you guys said yourself, 2/3 of the group in this audience said talent is a big topic for us. We don't understand where to find it and how to capture it. Well, finding digital talent is a prominent concern across industries, but it's a particular challenge in our industry, because essentially we're looking for a highly skilled workforce in a very, very small talent pool. A couple of things in the spirit of getting you to action that you could think about. One, think about going into talent in digitally native industries. So go back to those that actually have started digitization and see what we can do there. Two, look for talent in areas where industries already have gone through a digital transformation. There are some out there, retail, banking, and others that have already been through the journey. Another key step, though, is to create organizational structures that actually enable an agile way of working. Unfortunately, as we think about this, I'll just show a few examples, we found there's no right answer. There's many examples out there on what people are doing, but none of them is the silver bullet. So what do? Well, we think every company has an IT function. And so far, the IT function may be the most underappreciated function in this entire conversation about digital and innovation. So as we think about IT, we actually think that IT should be moved much more closer to the business. And moving IT closer to the business and redirecting them could actually be an opportunity to generate more value. How often have you seen business leaders actually talking to the IT team about finding opportunities to reduce cost or improve productivity? It's typically about the next software rollout, but it's never about how do we make the business better. And so when you think about the vast amount of data that many of you have in your organizations and what you do with those, I've had countless conversations lately where people have said, you know what, we as an organization, we feel data rich but inside poor. And so how do we address being data rich and inside poor? By leveraging the IT function in order to deliver more of that. If I just follow that thought a little longer, you could say, we could actually use data, and therefore insight, as a real competitive differentiator in how we deliver projects, how we think about scoping projects, and how we think about bidding on projects. And our IT teams could be a big unlock in how to make this happen. We think IT should be integrated with the operating units and should establish new digital roles focused on applying the new technologies to improve. The overall goals of these new roles could be to support innovation, value creation, in core business activities. And there are some companies that do that already. We've seen them. They do a couple things right. Let me share 3 things with you. First, they perform analytics to assess performance and the operations, and then they take action based on insight. I think Greg just made that case on the panel. Second, they rapidly test, and the focus is on rapidly test and deploy new hardware and software solutions in an agile method. And third, the teams concentrate on developing and deploying digital processes and products for field and back offices, and then most importantly, scaling that across the company instead of keeping it in one independent unit. Now, there's another key piece that I think this group should take away from this, which is, as we think about this, IT also has a critical role to play in what I call failure control. And so as IT solutions or new innovations are being rolled out, I think there should be a quality management process put in place that says, if they don't add value, how do we phase them out immediately? Or what do we need to do in order to create value from it? The worst thing you can let happen is to just let it sit. Sorry. In a recent survey of more than 2,000 executives that we've done, we found that 33% reported that a cultural and behavioral challenge is the single largest impediment to success when it comes to digitization. Let me say that again. 2,000 people, 33% say culture and behavioral challenge were the greatest impediment to meeting their digital objectives. A lack of understanding of digital trends came at second at 25%. So one problem is that many companies simply don't undertake, they simply undertake digitization efforts just with a vague belief rather than tying it to a specific objective. We call that a blind spot. Now, speaking of a blind spot, let's go back to those wheels and to the Mayan culture. Many of us have seen probably these fabulous feats of engineering, dragging blocks for unbelievable distances in order to create this. Well, if they only would have had the wheel, it would have been so much easier. Well, it turns out they did have the wheel, but they put it on the toys, not on the blocks. On the toys, because the kids want to be like their parents. They want to be able to participate, but that's what we call a blind spot. The Mayans focused overly on what they're doing well, which is building pyramids, not toys. And so they never came up with the idea of putting the wheels on the blocks. And we all, I believe, as an industry, have some of these blind spots. So let me give you 3. Somebody said this earlier today. I think we're not looking enough for opportunities to industrialize existing designs. In a way, we treat every single project as bespoke. And I'll probably offend a lot of engineers by saying that, but I do believe there's an opportunity to industrialize existing designs. 2, and we also talked about this, we value the ability, we value the insights from the individual more than the ability to enrich data with insights and then inform that by those individuals in the organization that have the expertise. And 3, we often just jump into technological solutions without conducting a value at stake analysis first. So with that, time is short. That was 10 minutes, goes by quick. The real question I want to leave you with is, how do we put this imaginary wheel on that suitcase in order to speed things up? Thank you very much.
Welcome to GII.